Okay, hi, welcome to another segment of Ask the Experts. I'm Elvina Chin, Family Life Educator with Mums for Life under Center for Fathering. And with me today is Esther Han, a mother of two girls, aged 3 and 1, who volunteers with BMSG, Breastfeeding Mother Support Group, as a breastfeeding counselor in her free time. BMSG, if you have not heard about it, is a nonprofit organization that offers mother-to-mother support for breastfeeding families. BMSG counselors are trained under the Australian Breastfeeding Association Peer Counsellor syllabus. The counselors conduct breastfeeding counseling through the phone, social media, and also support group sessions. BMSG envisions a Singaporean community where breastfeeding is seen as normal and part of society's fabric. Thank you, Esther, for spending some time with me today.
Hi, Alvina. Thanks for having us.
Breastfeeding is a distant memory to me. I am a mom of 3 teens, so yeah, it's been quite a while, but I can recall tearful episodes in my personal experience.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
So sorry to hear that.
But I think it's all a learning journey, right? And
Definitely.
I think with BMSG, the beauty is there's a community of moms going through similar experiences and journey, and that's where we get all the support. But we backtrack. So we now expectant moms who are preparing for the birth of her child, they would appreciate any help, any support they can get. And I hear and also believe that attending antenatal classes is definitely a good way to prepare for what's ahead. So Esther, what's some of the things to look out for before we sign up for antenatal classes?
Well, okay. I think firstly, for most people, upon realizing that they are expecting, the first thing that they would think about is which hospital do they wish to deliver at. So when choosing a hospital, I think it is important for expectant parents who wish to breastfeed to know that the lactation support from the healthcare professionals, especially during the immediate postpartum period, can really make a difference to breastfeeding outcomes. So worldwide, it has been shown that mothers who give birth in BFHI accredited hospitals have increased exclusive breastfeeding rates. Now, what is BFHI?
I was just going to ask.
Right. BFHI refers to Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative, which is part of a global effort by the UNICEF and the World Health Organization to ensure that maternity hospitals meet best practice standards in supporting mothers to breastfeed. Accreditation aside, I think it is also important for mothers to communicate with their medical team their breastfeeding goals so that the team can work alongside the mother to achieve her goals.
Just like you said, what is BFHI? Right, Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative. This is the first time I've heard of that, Esther. So, but if I'm not mistaken, Singapore has a few BFHI accredited hospitals, right?
That's right. Most of the hospitals in Singapore are BFHI accredited, but I think let's not go too much into this accreditation because I think ultimately you can give birth in a BFHI hospital and if you don't communicate your breastfeeding goals to the medical team, then they wouldn't be able to assist you along as much. But even if you deliver in a hospital that doesn't have that accreditation, it is still possible for the healthcare team to help you with your breastfeeding. So at the end of the day, I think mom should think about what are her breastfeeding goals so that the medical team can assist her to achieve these goals.
All right. Yeah, that's good. It's very reassuring, right? So not everyone's going to start rushing for BFHI accredited hospitals. Right?
I think it is good to know that this BFHI accreditation, they do have practices that help the mother achieve breastfeeding, but it doesn't mean that if you deliver in a non-BFHI accredited hospital, you wouldn't be able to breastfeed.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think that's something that we should take note of. And like your advice, for moms to sort of know or have a thought about what their goals
That's
are.
Right.
So they can communicate that to the, to those the medical support that they will be looking out for.
That's right.
So Esther, from your perspective, how did the antenatal classes benefit you?
Okay, I think we have to acknowledge that antenatal classes are definitely a good way to start preparing for parenthood. So these classes, they do give an idea on what to expect and what are the things that we should look out for. So it is always good to have this information beforehand, as we all know that it is definitely overwhelming. It is a very overwhelming period when the baby arrives. So I recall my first pregnancy, thanks to the antenatal classes, it was where I learned about the benefits of exclusive breastfeeding. And it was from there that I was really determined to breastfeed. So despite attending the antenatal classes, which gave me all this information on how breastfeeding should be like, I must say that I was at a loss when my baby arrived. Yeah, the nurses and the lactation consultants at the hospital, they did their best to guide me in latching the baby. And I think that itself really gave me the confidence to continue breastfeeding after my discharge. And it is also very normal to feel demoralized because breastfeeding is a skill that takes time to learn. So, after discharge, there may be family members who, although they are well-meaning, they may unintentionally make comments that can dampen the mother's spirit and confidence to breastfeed. So antenatal classes are very useful because they provide up-to-date information and advice on how to care for newborns. So I think it is very helpful if the spouse or close family member can attend these classes together with the mother.
That is a really good advice, Esther, because I think when it comes to pregnancy, antenatal classes, I think there's still this sense that the mom is the person who's mainly going to go through the whole experience. So the mom should be the one who prepares, and there's nothing else. The spouse perhaps or a close family member who would be able to benefit. But what you're saying here, it'll be good as well, right? So I think attending antenatal classes together as a couple, it's really a wonderful way to learn how to better support each other as soon-to-be parents.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and before you know it, the baby's here, and then it's time to actually put to practice whatever you've learned, every book you've read, so on and so forth. And it's quite interesting because I recently read about a US study of more than 500 moms, and 92% reported breastfeeding challenges by day 3, which I think is most likely by the time the mom is back home, right?
That's right.
So as a volunteer breastfeeding counselor with BMSG, I'm sure you get a lot of questions and concerns raised by moms who would really like to breastfeed, right? Mm-hmm. Personally, breastfeeding was a daunting challenge for me as a first-time mom. And again, over time, you grow in your confidence. The first thought I have was about milk supply. Am I producing enough milk for my baby? How can I tell? Right? So what are some reliable indicators moms should look out for?
I think, unfortunately, one of the most common reasons that mothers give up breastfeeding is that they often have doubts that they're not producing enough milk for their babies. Mm-hmm. So typical infant behaviors are often misinterpreted as signs of low supply, because I think over time, we have unrealistic expectations of how a baby should be like. So people tend to think that babies will just drink, poop and sleep, and the cycle repeats. They forget that it is normal for babies to cry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but at the same time, we also want to look out for crying. Crying, while it is normal, it can also be a sign of something else. So it is important to reset these expectations so that we know what is normal behavior and what is not. Mm-hmm. And then we are also constantly exposed to images of babies being bottle fed instead of breastfed. And I think these marketing tactics often lead to mothers questioning their supply.
Yeah, I'm so glad you pointed that out, because that is really misleading. I think a lot of images that we see, we don't even realize that has an effect on our expectations or the pressure we feel when it comes to milk supply. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, but I think one thing we should take note of is that the female body is actually biologically designed to breastfeed, and few women truly have issues rendering them unable to breastfeed. Mm-hmm. So just a bit of background on how breast milk is produced. A woman's breast could start to produce colostrum in late pregnancy, and colostrum is really all that a newborn needs in the first couple of days until the mother's milk comes in. So after delivery, the removal of the placenta stimulates the production of the breast milk, and colostrum transits to mature breast milk typically around 30 to 72 hours after birth. So thereafter, milk production is solely based on milk removal. Mm-hmm. So this means that when milk is removed from the breast will then make more milk. And when milk is not removed from the breast, that is when you see that your supply kind of dwindles. Mm-hmm. So the breast may feel softer after a feed, or after about 6 weeks or so, approximately this period, the breast may start to feel very soft compared to the earlier days when it is constantly engorged. But one thing we should note is that a lactating breast is never completely empty. So when a baby wishes to suckle and he is allowed to freely, the stimulation sends a signal to the brain so that the mom would produce more milk for the baby.
Mm.
And I think it's important for breastfeeding moms to observe baby's cues and to feed on demand rather than following a schedule. In fact, this should apply for whether you're bottle feeding or you're breastfeeding. So how do we know that a baby is growing well? The two things that we look out for are diaper output and weight gain. And nursing moms should also note that weight gain for breastfed babies will differ from bottle-fed or formula-fed babies. To check if a breastfed baby is gaining weight well, they should refer to the WHO charts, which are based on breastfed babies throughout the world. So healthy breastfed infants tend to grow more rapidly than their formula-fed peers in the first 2 to 3 months of life, and less rapidly from 3 to 12 months. So some healthcare professionals will use different growth charts that may unnecessarily recommend that the mother supplement with formula or solids because they're using a growth chart that's not solely for breastfed babies. BMSG has got infographics on the number of wet and dirty diapers that babies should ideally be producing based on their age. And we also have got other useful information that mothers can refer to. So you can find these infographics on our website. Besides weight gain and diaper output, I think other good indicators of baby growing well are baby being generally active and contented, meeting developmental milestones. These are all good indication that breastfeeding is going well.
All right. So the advice here is don't be misled by sort of like all those marketing tactics or images that we see of a full bottle of milk that the baby is happily guzzling down.
That's right.
But instead, we're looking out for diaper output. We're looking for healthy weight gain.
Correct.
The baby is generally active, contented, meeting your developmental milestones. And I think what you mentioned earlier, referring to WHO's growth charts based on breastfed babies is another piece of good advice. Yeah.
That's right. And it's common advice. Moms commonly hear that newborns feed approximately 8 to 12 times, and that works out to be about 2 to 3 hours on the average. However, I think moms should also know that it doesn't mean that something is wrong if the baby asks to feed more frequently or before this 2-hour period is up. So moms with breastfeeding concerns, I think they should definitely think about working with a certified lactation consultant if they face any breastfeeding related issues.
Yes, definitely. When you mentioned about that it's okay if the timing it's a bit messed up or unpredictable, because I can relate to that unpredictability, right?
That's
so it left me confused at the start as well. But I think what you're saying now is very reassuring for moms. Really to be flexible for a period of time when it comes to breastfeeding as well.
That's right, yeah, because not everybody eats at the same time. Not everybody eats at the same frequency, the same duration. So at the end of the day, what we're really looking at is the indicators that I mentioned above.
All right, okay, definitely. Yeah. That's good advice, yeah. So now to the other extreme of milk supply, right? There are many nursing moms who are proud of their freezer stash, and they would post pictures of their stash on their social media. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, okay. To be honest, oversupply is not a happy problem at all. Yeah, there are many nursing moms who feel that they are lacking when they compare themselves to other moms who have a large freezer stash of breast milk. While it is okay to have a small stash for use during emergencies, such as like when mom needs to head out for a couple of hours, or mom forgets to bring her breast milk back while she's at work. These are some situations whereby a small stash can come in handy. But I think moms should know that the properties of breast milk changes with baby's age and even during the course of the day.
Wow.
So even if you have frozen breast milk, it does lose some of its properties over time. So as such, we recommend that feeding directly from the breast is preferred, followed by freshly expressed breast milk, then refrigerated expressed breast milk, followed by frozen breast milk. But that said, breast milk is still the preferred type of milk compared to alternative milk. So even if it's frozen, it may have lost some of its properties over time. It is still the best thing. Breast milk is still the best thing you can provide for your baby.
Right.
Yeah. So moving on to other problems with oversupply. Oversupply can also cause forceful letdowns, and babies who are latching, they may struggle to cope with this abundant milk flow. And oversupply moms will also find that they get engorged very quickly, and they may have to express very often. So most of these oversupply moms, we find that they will be spending a significant amount of time expressing breast milk. And I think we should, let's admit it, tending to a baby is already demanding enough. So what more spending like a significant amount of your time with your breast pump? Yeah. And delaying and skipping pump sessions can also lead to problems such as clogged ducts and mastitis, which is a breast infection. And these are tricky problems to deal with. Yeah. So I think moms, should either focus on nursing their babies on demand, or if they are pumping, just aim to pump the amount that baby drinks, so that they can spend the remaining of their time on non-breastfeeding related matters.
Right. So we shouldn't have be overly attached to our breast pump as well.
That's right. I think there's no need to compare with other moms who've got large freezer stash. It doesn't mean that you're lacking in any way.
Right. Okay. So I don't know if you can hear the sigh of relief from moms who are watching this video. So an oversupply of milk is not the answer. And
I certainly hope so.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely something where I think a mom, I guess, also gain confidence in what her body is capable of doing.
That's
and,
right.
And the child being able to communicate that the need as well to the body.
That's right.
I think it's good. Yeah. So, but apart from the possible stress over milk supply, right? Sometimes moms face other challenges that make breastfeeding difficult, like you mentioned, engorgement. And of course, there are other things like cracked or bleeding nipples, right? Another particularly distressing one is that the baby's just not latching properly. And issues like this could really lead to a choice of ending breastfeeding prematurely or entirely, right?
Yeah.
So what has your experience been like supporting moms with similar struggles, and what tips have helped?
I think those issues that you mentioned earlier are very common issues. But one thing would be good for us to understand is that breastfeeding, like any other skill, it requires time and lots of practice before one can gain confidence in it. So it definitely helps when there are professionals to guide you in this journey. So in this case, the certified lactation consultants would be the best people that can help mothers with breastfeeding related issues. So again, these issues that you mentioned, they are very common, and with the right support, they are definitely not difficult to overcome. So BMSG counselors are also trained to provide up-to-date, accurate breastfeeding information on how mothers can manage these issues. So besides seeking professional support, mothers also need emotional support, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
So nursing mothers can easily feel overwhelmed or isolated. So I think joining a community with fellow breastfeeding mothers can help them manage these feelings. And BMSG also aims to provide such a space for mothers. We hope that nursing mothers can find the support that they need from us, as well as from one another in this community, and ultimately achieve their breastfeeding goals.
I really like what you said about community. I mean, apart from a lot of the issues, I think some things feel a little bit out of control. And like you said, it takes time. There's practice that's involved. But through that whole, time period and the need for practice to gain confidence, right? Just surrounding yourself with a supportive community is so important for moms to sort of feel encouraged, to get emotional support, and to just, carry on, try to achieve their breastfeeding goals.
That's right.
Yeah. And of course, I believe that, I think we both can agree, Esther, that transitioning into motherhood is a remarkable experience, and also a unique journey for each mom, right? So there's no point sort of like, it doesn't help for us to compare, in a sense, our journeys and our experiences, right? And a lot of it's learning on the job, very much like what you're saying, practice and, the time. Of course, ideally, a lot of this is happening with as much loving support as possible. And very quickly, life changes, right? As a couple, in our family, career, and all that. In Singapore alone, the number of dual income couples have grown from 47% to 52%. So we now look at moms who are returning to work, planning to return to work, but they also wish to continue breastfeeding. What are some challenges to anticipate and how can they manage them?
I think returning to work is after having a baby is definitely one of the is definitely one major hurdle that many nursing mothers face in their breastfeeding journey. So common concerns that we typically hear from moms returning to work are where should they express, how should they express, how can they express, and like how often to express, how much milk does baby need? There's really so many questions that we actually have a workshop for moms returning to work, and that's a 3-hour workshop.
Wow,
so
great.
The list is endless. Yeah, and I think some of the things that moms who are returning to work, what they can do is they can practice expressing their breast milk a few weeks before returning to work, and try to mimic a schedule that's similar to the work hours. Yeah. So and these days there are also hands-free portable palms or nursing covers that make expressing at work much easier. And as I mentioned, we've got BMSG has got this monthly back to work workshops, and moms can register their interest on our website. And moms can also learn from the experiences of fellow working moms by going onto our Facebook page and just asking. And we have many other moms who are very enthusiastic in sharing their experiences. So, mom can also ease the baby's transition by having the baby get used to the new caregiver. And, it's very common that babies will show resistance at first. And some babies may, depending on, we all have different characters. Same, likewise for babies. Some babies may take longer to accept a new environment. But I think moms, they don't have to worry too much about that, because babies are born with survival instincts and they won't starve themselves, so long as, the caregiver continues to offer regularly.
Yeah.
So it's usually the parents that are more anxious than the babies. So I think it will definitely help that the mom finds a caregiver or an infant care that she's comfortable with. And she communicates her expectations clearly to the caregiver prior to returning back to work.
Yes, so that's like you said, there's a long list of things to think about prior to returning to work. And if you're choosing to continue breastfeeding, right? But at the same time, of course, we also have moms who may choose to wean their babies off by the time they return to work. So this is another possibility for some moms in terms of their choices, right? So what steps can they take to begin the weaning process?
Okay, so if weaning is the mother's decision, then it is best for the mom and the baby to do it gradually. Anyway, if the baby is breastfeeding, is direct latching, the baby will most likely, fight the sudden denial of mom's soft, warm chest. Yeah. So moms that go cold turkey when they want to wean, they will generally experience their breast becoming painfully engorged, and this can lead to a breast infection. So what the mom can do is to gradually reduce the supply by cutting down the amount of milk that she's removing from her breast. Then what she can do is to space out the nursing or the pumping intervals and just express enough for the breast to feel comfortable. Then the body will get the signal to make less milk over time.
All right. Yeah. Wow. I mean, even as we're talking, this is like, it's a lot of different experiences over the breastfeeding time. I mean, different challenges, returning to work, and then it really is also about being patient. I think this whole breastfeeding experience requires so much patience.
And to be honest, I think it applies more to not just to breastfeeding. It is really all about parenthood. Patience and trying different things and seeing what works for you and your family.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's why I think it's important to have community. It's important to also talk to one another about, because we are all I'll say we have unique circumstances maybe, or the different dynamics at home as well. And of course, we're all different people. So, the way our bodies respond to different things also, are quite different from one another. They vary, right? So this whole thing about being patient and helping our bodies to also readjust to whatever changes that's going on, right? And there are really multiple reported benefits to breastfeeding. It's been said that breastfed children perform better on intelligence tests, they are less likely to be overweight or obese and less prone to diabetes later in life. And women who breastfeed also have a reduced risk of breast and ovarian cancers. So according to WHO, breastfeeding is one of the most effective ways to ensure child health and survival. However, it's interesting that nearly 2 out of 3 infants I've read are not exclusively breastfed for the recommended 6 months, and the rate has not improved in over 2 decades. So despite the benefits of breastfeeding for both mom and the baby, I think the lifestyle adjustments that we're talking about and the other challenges that comes along the whole experience of breastfeeding, they can seem to outweigh the pros of breastfeeding, right? Not just for the baby as a baby, but for the rest of the child's life as well. So my final question for today is, what can husbands, family members, what can they do to encourage and better support their wives in their breastfeeding journey?
Thanks, Alvina, for raising this. Yeah, because I think fathers are as much of a parent as a mother is.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think one of the things that fathers can do is that when the mother feeds the child, the father can take on other responsibilities, such as helping to burp the child, change the diaper, bathe the baby, or even putting the baby to sleep, playtime. So many other opportunities for the father to bond with the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and this few weeks, the initial weeks of breastfeeding can be really physically and emotionally taxing on the mother. So partner support is definitely helpful in making a positive impact on the mom's experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is important that the spouse respects the mother's commitment to breastfeed, because moms, they tend to neglect themselves after the baby has arrived. Mm-hmm. And while the mother focuses on nursing the baby, what the partner can do is to nurture the mother.
I agree.
Yeah. So spouses, they can check in with the breastfeeding mother on whether her basic needs are being met, such as, do you need a drink? Do you need me to hold the baby for a moment?
Mm-hmm.
And they can just communicate, ask the breastfeeding mother, how can they help?
Mm-hmm.
And, he can also, besides just asking, he can also be really hands-on, provide practical help, such as assisting with the household chores. If there are older children around, they can help to care for the older children. And, when the baby has arrived, it is very common that people will want to visit. So what the spouse can do is to, be a gatekeeper during these social visits by maintaining boundaries. If let's say family members or friends are very eager to hold the baby for too long. Yeah. And, the father can also show encouragement by being comfortable if the baby needs to nurse in public, because this can help the mom breastfeed for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, nursing in public can be pretty discreet if the mom masters how to nurse while on the go using a baby carrier, use a nursing cover, and there are really much more nursing facilities around
mm-hmm.
in public these days.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having a baby, let's admit it, having a baby changes the dynamics of the relationship. So some breastfeeding mothers, they will want personal space and they desire less touch from their partners during this period of time. Whereas some other mothers, they may desire more affection from their partners.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what would be helpful would be for the partner to realize that the breastfeeding mother may need some time to feel ready for sexual intimacy again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the end of the day, it's all about keeping the lines of communication open and remaining respectful towards one another, because these are the building blocks of a strong relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And we often think that, breastfeeding is just the mother and the baby. But in so many ways, having a supportive partner, supportive family members, and turning to the correct medical advice, and
mm-hmm.
even the community being supportive as a whole, are foundations for successful breastfeeding outcomes.
It is. So, we're looking for a whole family involvement, right? So breastfeeding isn't just about the mom and her personal experience, though very much so it is, but, it is a family affair.
That's right.
And there's a lot going on, I think it's like high speed transitions, right? So after couples move from being just newlyweds into parenthood, and it definitely helps for our husbands to come alongside us and share in this new experience together.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think these are really what helps the mother breastfeed for a longer period.
A lot of good stuff, Esther. So this has been an interesting conversation, and in many ways, a throwback to a time when I had more questions than answers and a lot of trial and error. But it's so wonderful that there are a community of moms. It's so wonderful to have BMSG, breastfeeding moms mother support group, to be there and to be sort of like the support and the source of advice, useful advice onto how to carry on and how to achieve breastfeeding goals for the moms who really have that in mind and really want that for their own experience as mothers. So Esther, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and all your valuable tips to support breastfeeding moms. There's still so much we can do as a community to affirm and encourage moms in their experiences.
That's
this
right.
has been a really great time, and I believe everything's been, there's a lot of a lot of tips that moms out there can benefit from. Thank you, Esther.
Thank you, Alvina, for having me today. And I think moms who are nursing, no matter how long you aim to nurse for, feel free to always come to BMSG for advice, and our counselors will do their best to offer the most up-to-date, accurate information, and we try our best to offer non-judgmental advice to counseling to breastfeeding moms. And besides counselors, it is also a community where you can meet fellow breastfeeding mummies, and I'm sure this will help give the mom some kind of support to in her breastfeeding journey.
Right. Thank you so much, Esther.
Thank you, Alvina.